Hey guys, it's Chrissy Senpai again, and today I'm just going to show you how I edit pretty much two versions of one art piece. So the art piece that you see in the right in the corner is a seashell watercolor painting I did just kind of like randomly. I was just like, hey, I want to do some traditional stuff, and then I painted it. I really like to do rainbow stuff, so that's where it came from. If you're wondering what watercolors, I'm not the best at watercolor. I have a few friends whose channels I will link who are way better at watercolor than me. I'm more of a digital artist. But watercolor, I like to do it, even though I'm not the best, and that's all that matters, is that you like to do something and that you're not the best. But anyway, I lost my train of thought already. Yeah, it was just a watercolor piece. The brands that I used are Prima Marketing watercolors. I'm pretty sure I just used one of their palettes. I'll link it below. It's not sponsored or anything. If you want to buy it, I love these watercolors. They are great pans, like pre-made pans, and I've never had any issues with them. They're not chalky. They blend nicely. They don't lift too much either. Again, as I said before, it is not my strongest suit. I'm more of a jack of all trades artist. I like to do a lot of things, but digital is my main thing. But they are quite good, especially for beginners. They are not too expensive either, and their colors are great. They are, I would say, akin. If you have the Kuretake watercolors, they're almost like that, but without that weird gel consistency that they can have sometimes. I have those as well, and I find that the Kuretake are not as easy for beginners because they have a odd gel consistency that I don't know how to explain, but it doesn't make it chalky, but it does lift really easy. Anyway, this video is not about that. This video is about how to take your traditional art and either make a digital version of it or just make it sellable on RedBubble. I do sell stuff on RedBubble, so I was like, okay, I can put this on RedBubble, but how do I want to do it? I ended up using the watercolor version, and you'll see how I use it in a good minute. This is a real-time video. I didn't speed anything up. This is just how I actually do things. Sorry if you hear like this in the background. That's me messing with the pop socket on my phone again because I'm a nervous boy. But basically what I first did was I put the picture that I took with my phone and just plopped it inside. Just like plop, put it inside. And then I made a canvas of how I usually do, which is 1080 by 1080 because Instagram sizes, and I plop it in there. And I'm like, okay, this is how we're gonna do it. I drew over the one that I copy pasted, and there's still the other one in the corner there because I'm gonna use that later. You'll see. And basically, I'm like, okay, here we go. All I basically did was paint the base colors as you saw. And then I blended them a little bit, erased some of the edging, like the edging I didn't find was, I guess, good. Filled in some of the little holes. I find that even with the way that I draw, I tend to get spots pretty easy in the art. So I always have to go back, and as you can tell, sometimes I still miss them no matter what I do, unless it's a commission and the commissioner notices. I don't notice them myself because I'm staring at it for, you know, possibly hours, or in this case only like 10 minutes. I was just like, okay, I didn't know if I was going to use this one or the watercolor one, so I didn't work too hard on it because I can always go back and work on it again when I feel like, hey, I'm going to use this one instead. So as you can see, I'm just shading, just trying to, I guess, walk through my art. I'm not the best at walking through my art, but I just shade to try to make it look as similar to the original. Now, I do find that watercolor has its own unique look. Obviously, there's some people who can make digital art look like watercolor. I'm not one of those people. I do not know how to do that. I do like to use the watercolor tool inside, but I mostly use that for blending purposes on my painterly drawings, like literally every piece that I make, because I don't use lines very much. I find that lines just doesn't look good with my style that I'm going for. I do use them sometimes in certain situations, like the last video I use lines, and more anime inspired stuff I use lines, but for things involving animals, nature, most furry commission work that I get, I don't use lines. I just don't like them. And I also don't draw my sonas with lines. I barely have any lines, unless it's like big chunky chibi lines, and then I'll use them. But anyway, I'm getting a little bit of a tangent. So what you're gonna do is you're either gonna make the digital one, which I am doing, as you can see right here, or you're gonna use the watercolor one. And I had a rough time deciding which one I was going to use. Somebody's like spamming my Instagram right now. I have a tough time figuring out which one I wanted to use, because it's okay to not know which one you want to use. You can do both if you want. I've seen so many people on RedBubble just like spam the absolute living hell out of their stores with the same post. I don't like to do that. Now I don't mind like having two like separate versions, like a digital and a traditional version that was put on a computer. And as somebody who does not have a scanner, this is the only way that I know how to put something on a computer. It's a little bit easier with a scanner, but this is like the broke man's way of doing something. So, as you can see, I'm still messing with the digital one. It is so hard to get that natural watercolor look digitally. I wish I knew how. I always watch tutorial videos, but I just don't know how to do it myself. When we get to the watercolor one, I'll explain a bit more of what I did, but this is for people who don't have scanners, basically. I've digitalized a few of my traditional pieces before, and I just never like them as much. I like my digital a bit more than my traditional, just because I'm not as good with it. Even though I started with traditional, I don't do it nearly as much as digital. But I did like this digital piece, but not as much as the watercolor piece, as you can see in my RedBubble store. It's there instead of the digital one. I don't think I'm going to upload the digital one. It was nice to make, and you know, I only spent like 10 minutes making that one. But yeah, I guess I'll just pause the voiceover here until I'll just pause the voiceover here until we get to the point of the video where I'm showing you how to basically make it look like you scanned something in, and it looks just as good as it would with a scanner, with at least Sai. I'm sure Photoshop is easier to do this with. But I don't have that. I'm not paying $30-some a month for an art program. This is the poor man's way. So, here I am, copying and pasting that other piece in. And so what you're going to want to do is, it's going to take a minute in Sai, because Sai doesn't have the best editing tools, but you're going to do your best to try to not delete too much of the original drawing. I did go back, edit it, blend things a little bit, but you'll see that in a minute. So what I did was delete the whole background, which is easy to do. You do have to go to the select wand and mess with the pixelation thing a bit, but it's usually not too hard to do, even with certain colors of backgrounds. It'll erase it, and you might have to go back and edit it, but that's fine. So what you see me doing here is, obviously, I blow it up a bit. I did make this canvas, if I'm not mistaken, the normal RedBubble size that I do, which is 2500 by 2500. I find that that is big enough for t-shirts most of the time, and big enough to size down when you're putting it on cups, stuff like that. Bigger is always better on RedBubble for the most part. You don't want a huge piece unless it is an all-over piece that is meant to like take up like with leggings. I almost never put leggings on there. I don't think I ever have, because I don't have a repeating, like a good repeating pattern art. But anyway, Anyway, as you can see, I am erasing the rough edges that the pixelation remove, like the select wand, or the magic wand, missed. Sai's editing tools are a little lackluster, but they can be used. There's other programs like GIMP and stuff, but every time I try to use GIMP, it crashes my computer, so I just gave up trying to use anything but Sai. I learned how to just do everything that I needed with Sai, and if I need text, well, guess who's opening the Paint program? Me. I'm opening the Paint program for text. But anyway, as you can see, I am editing, smoothing things out, making it look a little bit crispier. Like I said, I'm not the best at watercolor, so I wanted to take out some of the roughness, but it still looked like watercolor. And I'm just using the airbrush tool. I find the airbrush tool, if you use it at a lower setting, I think mine's not exactly 50% density, but it's somewhere around there. I can't see it because it's so tiny. But yeah, I would recommend airbrushing if you're editing a watercolor piece to make it look cleaner, and it makes it look more natural. Using the brush, I don't use the brush, like the brush tool, that often because I'm not very familiar with it. I find it's best for backgrounds. The airbrushing and the watercolor tool I find are best for blending. Don't overdo that airbrush though, because then you just gonna look like, it's just gonna look really muddy. So I make sure I select around the whole drawing once more with the magic wand to make sure there's nothing in the background, like little bits and bobs, because you never know. So my pen, like my tablet, sometimes likes to just scroll into the great beyond and add random dots that I don't notice. So I do go back and make sure there's nothing left in the background, because if you try to post that on RedBubble, you'll quickly see that you have a lot of random stuff hiding in the background of your artwork. So yeah, that makes it really easy. I'm just waiting to get to the next point here. I wish it would hurry up. I don't know if it's showing that or not. Let me... did it? I don't think it did. Basically, I went in with the hue and saturation tool and edited a bit. Oh, here we go. I opened it back up. You go in with the hue and saturation tool, which is a thing at the top on your screen. I don't think I went back and did it, but I'll explain it. The hue and saturation tool basically makes it look like you scanned it. You do have to mess with it a good bit, and you don't want to mess with it a lot because then it's going to completely destroy the original colors. But you tweak it a little bit, and then you're good. And now you can see I'm editing the sizes. I guess I didn't use the 2500 by 2500 canvas, but if you make the sizes relatively small, like they're not too much different, you don't get bad pixelation. That's the problem with using Sai, is that you can't really get, I think it's called like Rasta and some other thing. I'm not good with terms I don't use, but I'm pretty sure these are considered Rasta or raster images or whatever it's called. But if you're not expanding it too much, then it doesn't take away the quality, which, I mean, that's good. Obviously, you don't want to lose quality. RedBubble is infamous for if you have bad quality images, messing them up. But anyway, this is the end of the video. I'm gonna let you guys go since I'm pretty much done here. But I hope you guys have a good day and keep on drawing. And